Welcome to the podcast with a purpose, with information and content meant to motivate, aspire, and inspire you. From romance author and host Charmyra E. Fleming, but you can call her M.A.I. Welcome to an experience. This is the Purple Charm Experience. Welcome, everyone, to the Purple Charm Experience, where I am your host, Charmyra E. Fleming, but you can call me M.A.I. Today, I have the sincere pleasure and privilege of having an amazing author on our platform to share her work. It is a very, very deeply written memoir. And so today I am happy to bring on for our Ask the Author segment, Miss Tracy Baker. Welcome.
Hi, everybody. Thank you.
Welcome. So before we even get started, I want to share a little quick bio about Tracy. Tracy and I connected because we both have a love of line dancing. And that's where I know her from. But she wrote this incredible book, and I could not have her on to share her work. And so with that being said, Tracy, on June 21st, 2024, a Boston native, achieved something that she had locked in her mind to do since she was a teenager. She wrote and self-published her first book, a memoir entitled M.A.I, Unveiling. And this book takes you on an emotional journey as Tracy goes through and talks about her physical, verbal, and mental abuse that she endured as a child. She shares the bomb that was dropped on her at 18 and how it changed her world, and sends her on a search to find her biological parents. You'll laugh, that's for sure. You will cry, that is also for sure. You will cheer, you will wonder and be amazed and shocked by most of all is Tracy's hope that you'll be encouraged and that her story helps you on your path to healing. After all, that was the reason she decided to share her story with the world. I am deeply touched and have been deeply moved and touched by this book. And so I'm hoping that if you're listening and watching this conversation, that you will pick up this book. And so with that being said, I would like to welcome the amazing Tracy Baker once again.
Thank you.
So Tracy, tell me, this book was, when I picked it up, I think I texted you within the first few moments of starting to read and letting you know that I was in tears. Like, I was literally in tears in the first chapter. And so, one of the things that came to me was, what kind of state did you have to get yourself to the point so that you were prepared to write this? What, I know there was a journey for you to get here, but what was it? What did it take to prepare to sit down and start writing?
Well, honestly, like you said, I had been wanting to write this book since I was a teenager. And just I believe in either November or December of 2023, I decided I'm going to write this book. And so, I started by doing that. But honestly, I wasn't prepared in terms of what was going to happen to me as I wrote. I didn't really think about it until I sat down and started writing. And there was a lot of tears that flowed. There were two people in particular who I mentioned in the book that I would read some to, and I would cry. and they would
Yeah.
encourage me to keep going, so it was hard. And that's the problem. I didn't really prepare my mind
Mm-hmm.
in terms of how I was going to be emotionally. So
Mm. Do you find that you still dealing with the emotion that came up from writing the book?
I I am still dealing with emotions just from some of the things that happened.
Mm.
Recently, I had a vending in a library, and
Mm-hmm.
this girl had Hershey chocolate bars, one of the other authors, and she was giving them out, and I took one. And when I started to eat it, all of a sudden it brought back, because there's a part in that book that talks about having to sit and eat. And that was one of the things that was in the container, one of the candies. And
Wow.
I had to stop and not eat it. So
Mm.
I still feel the residuals of the things that are mentioned in that book. Um, and I think I'll feel them for a very long
For a
time.
long time.
Yeah.
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 Um, what did what for you? Um, you had to face a lot of monsters to write this. There were some monsters in this story
Mhm.
that you had to face. There are villains.
Mhm.
They were real villains
Yes.
to that you had to face. And I feel like you were a superhero, you know. You had your armor on the entire time. And what did it feel like, years later, facing some of your villains, because for the most part, they tried to break you.
Mhm.
And here you are still standing here strong.
Mhm.
What was it like to feel your strength, regaining your power and standing up to some of these villains?
Yeah. It was like being unleashed to read. And honestly, I think I cried a lot because I never faced what had happened to me. And I often say to people, it's like an alcoholic problem or drug problem. It's not until you admit that you have that problem,
Mm-hmm.
get on your path to healing. And I had not admitted to myself, I fell inside, but I just kept going with life, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So to really sit down, and as I wrote, things just flowed out. It told me that it was all inside,
Mm-hmm.
and it just was, it was heartbreaking. But at the same time, like you said, I felt the tears helped me to kind of free everything
Yeah.
and let everything out.
Yeah.
And as I faced those situations and had to relive them, um, I don't say that I'm a hero. I just know somebody bigger was always there. And I mentioned that in the book.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't in my strength. It was God who gave me strength
Right.
um, to get through those things. And yeah, so that's pretty much how I dealt with, you know, writing and my emotions.
I think it's just telling, all of the things that you had to face, and the story that unfolds. Like I got to a point where it's literally a page turner. Like you literally can sit and just continue to read and continue to read and continue to read because you want to know. It's almost like you you want to see some good happen. As a reader, I wanted to see the good. And when the good started to come, I was excited. And for you, like living through this, I know it had been an emotional roller coaster throughout life. Um, but as you wrote the book, what do you feel like was the hardest part that you had to relive so that you could write?
Honestly, the hardest part was the fact, facing the fact why my biological mother, um, didn't keep me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, throughout meeting her and so forth and being with her, I just never really thought about it. And when I wrote it, the pain was really bad.
Yeah.
So I would say, even though there were many other things that happened to me prior to that, I would say that was the hardest realization for me.
Yeah, I could feel that energy come off the page. Um, I felt that it was almost visceral in a sense because it's probably one of the last things you expected for her to say, you
Mm,
know. And it was hard to read those parts because even when you talked about how when you realized that the little people the little kids that was being kept by
mhm,
your other mom
mhm,
that was in the house and that you found out that they were uh your siblings.
mhm,
I was like, she did that so she could, and I said it before you even said it. I was like, she did it so she could stay in contact with her. That was
mhm.
her way of being able to still be able to stay connected to you.
Yes. Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, it was just wow. Because and then when you said it, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And it was, oh man, it was just like so many things. Like when, like the stuff that was discussed at the beginning of the book started making connections near the end. I
Mhm.
was like, oh man, like her family's like literally all been all around her the whole time.
Yeah, that was really amazing,
Yeah.
to have been in the same class with my brother and not know he was my brother and one of my cousins and another cousin in high school. It was amazing in terms of keeping that hidden. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
That's
Like,
a lot of work.
yeah,
That
yeah,
was
that
a
is a
lot of
lot of
work.
work. But it explained some of the behavior in
Yeah.
terms of why I was limited to the yard,
Mm-hmm.
for so long.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, some of my friends who knew me back then, they were like, "You were outgrowing the fence, and you were still in the fence." We laugh about it, but it explained why that was done. Really, it
Mm-hmm.
was because, she knew that all my family was around in that area. And she never knew if my biological family would pop up, my
Pop
mother.
up at any time. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So, when I think of her, is the mother that raised me, of course.
Yeah.
When I think of her, I feel a little sad for her. And, and I feel sad because she was keeping so many secrets. And at some
Yeah.
point, it's all gonna crumble. You know what I mean? You're building this,
Yeah.
you have a family. So throughout the writing of that book, it really helped me to heal in terms of and understand.
Mm-hmm.
So it took away a lot of the anger I think I still had about that situation, and it allowed me to have more empathy for her. Um,
Mm.
and
Mm.
because when you think about, everybody has a story, and that's what I say, everybody, there's none of us that don't have a story, and she
Right.
has a story,
Right. Right.
and it's never really been told. I don't know a whole lot about her, but she didn't talk. about that much, but she had a story. Something
Yeah.
happened to her. And I
Yeah.
try to keep that in mind.
Yeah. The level of empathy and compassion that you have for her, despite how she treated you, there was a level, that was something in her that could not allow her to see you as a child in a bad situation, a home that you were in that she took you out of. It just, I couldn't understand, how is it that you treated her so horribly, but seeing her in this home where she was eating chicken bones off the floor and, dirty and all this stuff, you wanted her out of that situation, but you bring her into a household and you tear this woman's, this baby's spirit. You tear this baby's spirit up.
I think she and that's a good point, because I never, right, in that book, I really didn't think about it like that. How she took me out of a place that wasn't a good environment for me. So that told me that she felt something.
Yeah,
She
yeah,
felt something and she wanted to have me and take care of me.
yeah.
But, sometimes people even adopt children when they're, but they don't think about the long haul of they grow up.
Mm-hmm.
They're cute when they're little. And I don't know if that was part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I don't say this in the book, but I know that she miscarried
Mm.
while I was with her. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe that had something to do with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
There's just I
So
can't
many
crawl
unknowns. Yeah.
into the mind of her,
Yeah.
but I can know that something she must have had a very hard life herself.
Yeah. There is some inner turmoil that was happening there, because that that good versus evil push pull right there
Mhm.
with her, when I read that, made me feel like, oh my gosh, I'm torn. And
Mhm.
definitely she was dealing with something like that it sounded like some mental illness maybe, or
Mhm.
some
Mhm.
alcoholism that she was battling
Mhm.
in the background. Like some of the things that I read just had signs
Mhm.
of her dealing with some troubling things that must have been hard for her to face.
Yeah.
And she
I-
was taking it out on everybody,
right.
particularly you,
Yeah,
for
I
certain
felt
you.
like, because it was almost like the perfect family situation, because people outside looked and saw, a mother and a father and a son
Nuclear
and daughter.
family, yeah.
And it was, you know, they had no idea what was going on in that house. None. And, when she came out, she presented herself in such a way that was so dignified. And,
Yeah,
so there was no way. She didn't have a lot of friends,
yeah.
that would come over and so forth. So, yeah, definitely
The
some,
fact that she was willing to take care of your siblings too,
yeah,
and she wouldn't let them go, wouldn't let them go home dirty,
yes,
you
exactly.
know.
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, there's some level of something in there, some
Yeah,
feeling in there.
yes.
And but yeah, that hurt, that it made me think about, my own children,
Mm.
and even my own upbringing. Like, there are some things that you say in here that reminded me of my childhood. Like, we color, like when you talked about coloring, I used to color and use the black crayon to color it.
Yeah.
Trace
Trace it first. You gotta
it
trace
first.
it.
And there were a lot of things that you talked about. I hated PE too. I got a D in PE. I was like, there are like a lot of things that you said. It was like, is this my life? Like, but then the hard part, there was
Uh-huh.
so many things that I could relate to you on, but then that part, the home part, just broke my heart.
Mhm.
And so I was just, there were things that I just kept picking up on. I was like, oh my God, that
Mhm.
is so cool. And then even, your times away from home, I felt like those were moments of solace, but
Mhm.
still there was this yearning, this part of you that was looking for someone to care, someone to
Mhm.
reach out, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah, I think that part it still lingers. You
Yeah.
know, I find myself in that position a lot.
Mm.
Of just wondering, do people really care? And it's hard to sometimes accept the people who really do care because
Yeah.
you're so used to not having that, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, like I said in the beginning, it's really still difficult.
Yeah.
It's not as difficult because now I'm grown and I
Mhm.
can know the process. And when you were talking, I was thinking of, in the beginning of the book, I talk about how I came to nothing protective about home,
Yes.
um, or my mother.
Mhm.
I think about that now with children, how important that is, being chased home and thinking I'm running to a place when my mother's
Mhm.
going to take care of it and she's not going
Mhm.
to let anybody hurt me and then being punished, you know. So at that very early age, children get it. They
Yeah.
understand,
Yeah.
and that's why it's important, very important when they're young to that you build security around
Mm.
so that
Mm.
they can feel like they can run home to you and they can talk to you about things and it's much more important now because the bullying situation can lead to them taking their own life. So, I think about that.
Oh, we'll get to your, as you to the pieces about your mother, but when you think about your fathers, both of
Mhm.
your fathers, how do they compare and contrast in ways? Because I know that there's a point in here that you it's almost a hard stop with your biological dad.
Mhm.
Like you introduce us to him, but it's a hard stop on
Mhm.
going any further into what you had with him. You
Mhm.
know, when you look at the two men in your life, and I noticed, I mean, even though your your the father who raised you um kind of was just as bad as the mom, but from a he was, to me it felt like he just as bad, but he did not, but he allowed a lot to happen. He saw a
Mhm.
lot and allowed a lot to go
Mhm.
on.
Mhm.
And I noticed that one piece with the song, with the music and the song, that song, um, you connected a piece of softness with him. It's
Mhm.
particularly a softness that you could not get out of the mother who raised you.
Mhm.
There wasn't any of that, even though you found him later,
Mhm.
nothing you could connect to your biological father.
Mhm.
Is there anything between the relationships that you found when writing about these men? How the emotion that you felt about each one of them? What was that like?
For me, for the father who raised me, I I could also empathize with him because I feel
Mm-hmm.
like he was caught in the crossfire a lot. Um, I don't think he would have treated me that way were it not for the mother who
Sure.
raised me and
Mm-hmm.
trying to keep her from getting on him, you know?
Mm.
So I think. I think there were times he might have wanted to get involved, but he just so that he wouldn't hear it or there was no rift between him and her. Um,
Mm-hmm.
even though there probably was a lot going on in that relationship. Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
good, but I just felt like he just wanted to keep the peace. And
Yeah.
the sad thing was it was at my sacrifice, you know? Um, and so for that reason, I think I think meeting my biological father, I already had in my mind how a father was. And although, like I say in the book, I wanted my father to be my knight in shining armor, and he wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it made me feel like men in general just don't get involved when they should. So I think that kind of carried over to meeting my father. But and I wanted him. I wanted my biological father to be what I needed.
Yeah.
And I was deeply disappointed when, he blamed my mother for everything. That was an automatic turn off for me because
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, how did you lose me?
Right.
I don't want
Right.
to hear about
Right.
what my mother did. How come you weren't there? Because to me, you're the man in this scenario, and to me, you carry more of the weight.
Yep.
Um, so I just couldn't, I after that I couldn't connect with him. I think I just shut down and
Shut it down.
uh,
The invisible wall went up.
yes, yes, because I've already been hurt by this person who I thought was my dad. And I'm not going to let you continue to
Do the same.
sacrifice me or my feelings. So, I think to some degree that might not have been fair. But there's a hard stop with my father for this reason in the book, because my father still has siblings living.
Yeah. Yeah.
And his family is ginormous. There was
Yeah.
13 of them.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so there's all these cousins and so forth that I've met along the way. And I didn't write the book to do that. I didn't write
Yeah.
the book
Yeah.
to slam anybody.
Yeah.
And
It's for
so,
you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so for that reason, there were many things that happened between me and my
Yeah.
father that I couldn't believe happened, and I was like, I'm done. And
Mm-hmm.
it happened unapologetically.
Mm.
He's stubborn and I'm stubborn. Um, so he wasn't gonna apologize for those things. And I was just like, you know what? I gotta cut you out
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
gotta keep surviving, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's why that's funny that you picked that up. There is a hard stop. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I noticed that. It was just like, yep, you
Mhm.
shut the book on that.
Yeah. And it
Here
was,
he is. This
yeah,
is what happened.
right.
Close the book.
Right, right. Whereas I'm able to go into more detail too with my biological mother because I had the permission to do
Yeah.
so. My
Yeah.
father had already passed away, so I
Yeah.
didn't get to discuss with him the book or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
It was more just because I didn't want to hurt the family.
And I can understand that level of respect,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
even in death, you know,
Hmm. Hmm.
you're honoring these
Right,
people and their
right.
legacies and their memories,
Hmm.
regardless of whether or not those is favorable or not.
Hmm.
You respecting their, their privacy, but you
Yeah.
also honoring uh the what happened
Hmm.
and giving it the ability to be the liberation that it deserves,
Right,
you
right.
know,
I
to
just,
free you, you know.
yeah. I would have liked to tell a few things that have had happened because I think people would really understand the
Mm-hmm.
dynamics a little better. But
Mm-hmm.
just out of respect for the family. And
Yeah.
and and really I don't know all the family.
Mm-hmm.
There's too many of them. So I don't know all of them. Um, So really, I could have been like, who cares? But I do
Yeah.
care. Yeah, I do
But I
care.
appreciate it. Even in as you were writing, you said you were always consciously aware throughout the book of those that you being this vulnerable, telling your story, how it
Mhm,
impacts and touches others that
mhm,
were living part of different parts of these stories, this
mhm,
your life's journey. You
mhm,
know,
mhm,
I loved how you are consciously aware of not just your own vulnerability, but how it can make other people look
mhm,
or appear
mhm.
as you tell your story. And if more people were as consciously aware as you are, wouldn't have half of this nonsense going on out here.
Yeah.
Like, because I mean, is no one wants to be looked about. I mean, to appear unfavorable, but there are some. But I can see how like even you had even in the book you had this. You said that you could tell a lot of things,
Mhm,
but you had to protect you know
mhm.
protect people, because you don't want to put them on Front Street like that. That's crazy.
Right, right. And it's, you know,
And you don't have to do that to tell your story.
exactly. That's exactly right. But I wanted my story told. And
Yes.
I was determined that I was going to tell it. And just um when I was 18 and I thought about writing a book, I'm so glad I didn't do it then
Yeah.
because people would have still been living.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and also, I don't think I could have had the perspective that I have on it now.
Yeah.
Now that I've aged and seen things and been through other things in life, I can look back at those things and have that empathy and try to understand a little better. I wouldn't have
Mm-hmm.
understood none of that. And I can also explain to other people, if you hold this stuff inside and you wait to unveil it, and in between that time, you're becoming who you're going to be, right? And it's going to affect you because all those things inside make you who you are,
Yeah.
right? And you're not going to understand, you know, I always thought, like, you're so strange. Why do you feel this way or that way? And it wasn't until I wrote the book that I understood me, you know, what
Mm-hmm.
I've been and why I have these feelings and emotions that other people just don't seem to have, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it sends a good message to people who are going through abuse physically or mentally is the worst,
Yeah.
what not to do.
Yeah.
Don't wait as long as me
Yeah.
to deal with what happened to you. Try your best to deal with it in the moment or a little time after, but don't carry that because it will haunt you.
Were there other people that you didn't get to connect with prior to writing the book that you wish that you could have gotten a chance to connect with other than I think the lady that was in the station wagon?
Um, I don't I the woman who raised me, her mom had passed away by then. I would have I really wish I would have been able to talk to her.
Yeah.
I could see how the mother who raised me had the same temperament as her mother. Like
Uh-huh.
she wasn't the nicest.
Yeah.
However, she, because they all knew like I didn't belong to her,
Yeah.
right? And so for to help hide all that, you know, I know families are close and stuff like that. And I guess back then, here again, it was about what goes on in the house stays in the house
Yeah.
and put our business
Mm-hmm.
out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I would have loved to have talked to her to see what the woman who raised me, what she had been through in life.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Um, and just to hear, some of the stories and understand a little better. So I wish I could have, met with her. And I definitely, absolutely wish I would have caught the woman in the station wagon.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because there was a lot to be told there. I think, um, I think the person I did get answers from was the woman who raised me. And
Mm-hmm.
I wish, because right now I don't know if she's living or not. I
Mm-hmm.
know she was going through some senility, and they put her someplace, and I don't know where that place is. So I don't know if she's still alive or not. Um, but I would have liked to ask her why,
Yeah.
because I can guess at it, but I just would love to know what was on my mind and why did you take me
Mm-hmm.
if you couldn't love me? You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? What
Mm-hmm.
changed?
Mm-hmm.
Because in my mind back then, I was always thinking I was the worst person. What did I do? I did
Yeah.
something that made her not like me. She just doesn't like me. She can't love me. And in my mind, it was something I had done. So I would really, really have liked to talk to her and find
Mm-hmm.
out, you know.
What's your relationship like now with your siblings?
So, three of my siblings have already passed away. Um,
Oh.
so so those were three of my brothers passed away, and then I now have two sisters and a brother who remain, and I don't have any
And
really.
that with them.
No, I mean, it's hard. I think
Yeah.
it's difficult to come on the scene, and I'm the oldest of them all, but to come on the scene, and there were, people took sides.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was just a lot. And for
Yeah.
me, I learned throughout life how to shut people out.
Yeah.
And I'm not, I hate that it's that way, but for me, when it comes down to is you or me,
Mm-hmm. You gonna protect you?
I have to be okay mentally,
Yeah.
so for those reasons, I wish I had a relationship, especially with my sisters, because growing up, I didn't have sisters. But it definitely in the case, sides were taken, and
Yeah.
even to, this day, people just don't get it.
Yeah.
They'll say things to me, and I'm like, you know, I know that I've done a lot of things wrong
But you were the
throughout my
innocent
life.
person. You were the innocent
Yeah.
bystander and all of this.
Everybody, yes, and that's the point. In this particular situation, I was definitely the victim,
Yeah.
but people don't see it that way. And it amazes me that they don't see it that way because they'd rather be on the side of family.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is. So I'm good with that, you know.
Because I'm like, you couldn't do anything. You was a baby.
Right. That's
You
exactly right.
it
Yes.
passed around.
And because in the book I speak about that, people, um, when I started meeting my biological family, it was like they wanted me to pretend nothing ever happened. Just come in the family and
Do
and
that.
go for this ride with us. But when I met them, I was super, super shy. Like I didn't talk
Mm-hmm.
about it. Um, and I would just listen, and they would be looking at me like, what's wrong with her? Like she doesn't want to be a part of the family and stuff like. And it wasn't that, it was a lot. It was a lot.
Yeah.
And just finding people, and finding out you're related to them and you went to school with them, and that was a lot for me.
That's a lot. That's a
And,
lot for anybody.
but
And
people, they
to
don't
be,
consider that.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but
Uh,
to even think about the fact that you coming from a complete environment where at times you were in isolation complete isolation as not because you wanted to be, because you was forced to be it in most cases. And then also having to create a place of protection within yourself because of the environment you was living in. And then you get thrust into this new environment of people, and you have to be open and gregarious and go out here and be like extroverted when you, for the most part, have been an introvert this entire time.
Yeah.
You
And
did
in
it like
most
this.
situations, I
Yeah.
still, I'm still learning how to interact with people, honestly, and because sometimes I'm like, what do I say? What do I do? And the ordinary person knows what to say and what to do, right? But I don't always know things.
That has that been a challenge, as you stepped into your journey as an author and having to meet people? Or do you find that because of what you've been through, and now that you have this story as empowering to share with so many other people, does that come through as courage that allow you to be able to speak more freely? Or do you find those moments where the introvertedness creeps up and sometimes take hold?
I think more often than I would like, the introvert happens. Because there's many times I should stand up and say certain things to people and I won't do it. um, and But however, meeting my biological mother was very, very helpful with that. She came in like a ball of fire and was like, I got you.
That was a beautiful chapter.
Yes, I got you. And you don't let people step all over you. There's a way to say and do things that you don't have to hurt other people, but you got to stand for yourself.
Right.
And so sometimes when I'm in a situation now, I think about my mom. And I think, what would she tell me to do in this situation? And sometimes that calls for speaking up, and I'll speak up. Because usually I don't speak up until I'm super angry about something. And then the harshness is coming, right? Because I've
Oh
been
yeah.
doing it for
Oh
so
yeah.
long. And I don't like that. Somebody told me once, nip it in the bud. Like when it starts, you got to speak up then, because otherwise it's going to grow, right? And you're going to go off on somebody and they're going to be looking like, well, what happened? Because all those other times they
pressure
didn't get
cooker. You've
that.
been acting like a pressure cooker this whole time, just
Right,
taking it,
exactly. And
taking
then
it.
I
Yeah.
look like the crazy one, right? So,
Yeah.
but my mom, um, although she wasn't in my life for 18 years, when she came along, she was just a beautiful person. And she really, really tried her best to be there for me and to help me. And, I feel blessed to have met her. And I'm gonna cry now because she's not here, but she was just the best. She was the best mother.
God rest her soul.
Mm-hmm.
Like to Tracy's mom, we lift your name. We give you honor. Thank you. Because I could feel her energy coming through the pages. I could tell she gave you some strength, some power back that you had in you, but she woke it back up, and it was a beautiful chapter to read. And it hurt me to read when she passed away. And interesting enough, uh, April 14th is the same day that Prince, it was like 7 days before Prince died, you know.
Oh.
And he had when he was on that plane, but he got sick on the plane, and it just, if that was one of the first things I thought about, I was like, oh my goodness, it always snows in April, that visual came, and then I was just like, oh man. But I could just hear, like, as you read her chapter, you can hear her power and who she was. I could tell that she didn't play.
Oh. She didn't. She was a sweetheart though, but when
Mhm.
she had to say something, you better believe she was gonna say it. And that meant even to me.
Yeah,
So
that was just awesome, how you honored her in that chapter too. And I love the relationship that you guys developed over time. And even though, I know you talked a lot about, you felt bad that she felt like she had to make up for lost time. But I feel like, yeah, there were gaps that she wasn't there. But there were also times when you didn't know and she was there, you know? You just didn't know who she was at the time, you know? And I just appreciate the fact that she had to let you go because of what was going on. And it's hard that she had to make that choice too. No mother should have to make that kind of choice.
Yeah.
And it almost makes me angry at her husband for putting her through that because of what it did to you.
Yeah.
That was hard to read that. And so, looking back, how do you feel? I know that you probably had a lot that you had to deal with in terms of relationships, but now that you know more about yourself through this book, how does it change some of the relationships that you have today?
I think, there was a time where I didn't think relationships really meant much. But I think people come along in your life and they're good people.
Yeah,
You might not always be able to stay for whatever reason, but you learn from them
yeah,
and you enjoy the time that you're with them.
yeah,
And I'm learning to do that. I'm learning to, I think sometimes when somebody good would come in my life, I would hold on to them so tight and it'd be
yeah.
like, I don't want anybody else to have this person
Mhm.
because, um, it was like I found what I want,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
but I learned quickly that, maybe they need to go help somebody else. And
yeah,
so I think I approach life and people with purpose. And when I say that, it's like um, when I meet somebody and we have a relationship, I try my best to be there for them,
yeah.
to treat them with kindness and love because you just don't know a person's story and you
Right.
just don't want to come in their life and add to pain, but you want to bring love to them and
Yeah,
respect and I think that's what I think about. I think make sure that you're a good friend.
yeah.
Excuse me. And it
Hmm.
doesn't matter how people treat you in terms of I'm never gonna let you make me who you are.
Hmm.
And I think that's important. I think sometimes people get so upset, with something that's done to them by somebody else. And I think it can make you a bad person when you
Yeah.
do that. So I'm either going to cut you out if I have, but I'm not going to hurt you. Even
Right.
if I cut you out and you come to me and say, I need A, B, and C, I'm going to try my best to do it for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I had to learn to be that way, but also to protect Tracy.
Yeah.
You know, I think I always didn't do that. I
Let
did
things
let
happen.
people, yeah, and say and do. you know, and I've learned how to put a stop to that without hating the person. So
I love that. I was gonna ask you, similar question like with your two dads.
mhm.
Um, what are some of the best parts of your biological mother and your Bible study teacher that you carry with you today? Because I know that these women were.
Mhm. Um, yeah, that's a hard question, but I'm gonna do my best to answer. For my biological um mother, it was to live life. You'll make mistakes, and those mistakes, some of them will be really bad. Um, but you can bounce back, you when given the opportunity to do that, and make sure you do it.
Mm,
I think that's the lesson I took from my mom. And, from my Bible study teacher, is to never forget who you serve. Although we're not perfect and we can't live up to the standards that he sets perfectly, try. And she didn't just say those words, but she lived
live them, live them.
she lived them. For her to take me in and treat me like a daughter, and trust me. She would always say, I trust you until you give me a reason not to. And that really resonated with me, because when I told her I'm going here, that's where
Yeah,
I went, because I didn't want to disappoint her. You
yeah.
know what I mean? So, um, you
I
know,
love how she gave you the ability before you finish up with
mhm,
that.
mhm,
How she gave you, like, when you wanted to go back to, when you went back to the mother who raised you, when you went to live with the mother, with your biological mother, or the moments that you left and came back, she always had that door open for you.
mhm.
I love that. And
Yeah,
her children too. I love
yeah,
the relationship that you had with the daughter that you shared the bedroom with too.
yeah. That is key. Um, she never held that against me. She
Mhm.
never, because some people would have been like, look what I've
Yeah,
done for you.
jealous. Yeah.
Yes, but here again, it was because she followed the example of who created her, right?
Mhm,
And she allowed that openness, and that allowed me to grow and to
mhm,
flourish as well. So that's a lot of love, because times loving is letting go, right? In certain
mhm.
situations. So, she really did give me the ability and help. She gave me the guidance to make good decisions on my own.
Yeah, yeah,
And some of those decisions might have hurt her,
yeah,
but she never said it,
yeah.
and she never acted any different towards me.
She been gone.
Since the 80s, probably like
Really?
86,
That long?
7, yeah, she's been gone a long time. But recently, just a couple of weeks ago, I was able to have lunch with her daughter, the one that lived upstairs. And we
Oh my
stayed in
goodness.
contact. She was very supportive of the book and excited. She helped me a lot. So I still stay in contact with her. And
That warms my heart.
yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh wow. Um, I think you touched on it a little bit of it, but as we start to wind it down and close, I wanted to ask you how you feel today, having gone through this, being completely forthright and honest about your entire life, and just kind of feel, just kind of want to understand, where you are now with it. Where did it leave you? Do you feel like you have more work or less work to do? I could tell, I know that it had to be weight lifted off of you when you wrote the last word and put a period at the end.
Mhm.
But where are you now?
I feel like there's still work to do
Mhm.
because the book is there and I think it can help a lot of people. But I have to get the book out there
Yeah,
and
yeah,
noticed. And I really would love to do some motivational speaking
yeah.
at different organizations and places because I feel like it can help people. And so that is my goal that I'm working towards. And hopefully, it will happen that I can't help everybody, but if I can help
Mhm.
some people, it's better than none.
Better than nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, I was gonna ask you. It was like, so what do you have coming up? Are you gonna write any more? Do you think you write even more about your experience that after the unveiling? You
Yeah,
know?
it's funny because yesterday I was cleaning my basement and I was putting up a new mural on my wall because I like to do that kind of stuff. And I was thinking about the book, and others have asked me, will you write another book? And as I was thinking about it, I said, what would you call the next book? And a title came up. So, and I know, some people were not happy. They were like, why did you tell all your business and share your business? You don't need to put your business out there. I didn't do it for me. I didn't start out doing it for me. I did it to help
Right.
other people. And in the process, I helped myself, right?
Yeah.
I didn't expect that to happen.
Mhm.
So, you know, you always save a piece for yourself.
Right.
You don't give everything.
Right.
What
Right.
I
Right. Right.
can give, I will continue to give. And so likely there will be another book, and it likely will go into the details of how life has been after that.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Um, Before we go, I
Mhm.
know you had a Prince story to tell me.
Oh, yes, because I know you love Prince
I
so
love
much, right?
Prince.
And by the way, my favorite song by him is Adore. I love that song
I
because
cry every time I hear it.
I love that he says, you know, love is too weak to define.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
how could love be too weak to
It's
define?
weak.
But
Right.
when somebody says, I adore another person, that really, I thought about it and I was like, that really, it goes above, right? So
Yeah.
I love that song for that reason. But so my husband and I, one day I decided, I said, I'm going to take my husband to see Prince. And he was back then, I think it was called the TD Garden.
Yeah.
So I bought tickets and I bought really good tickets. And when we went inside, there were people, that escort you to your seat, and we're going lower and lower. I'm like, wow, these seats are really good. So it's close to the floor, not on the floor. And but I noticed this guy, he was like I thought he was security because back then you could not, they told us you cannot take any pictures and you don't film anything. If
Right.
you see your camera out, your phone, we will take it from you and you won't get it back. So I'm like,
Mm.
man, it's strict, right? So I kept seeing him watching my husband and I, and then the next thing I knew, down he was my husband. So I'm like, he pull out a phone. What's going on? I didn't. So my husband leaned and he said, this I would like to know if you would like to dance on stage. Prince. I was like, absolutely not.
What?
And my husband said, he was like, why? I said, I can't dance. I've never been a good dancer. And B, I just don't want that attention. And my husband was like, so he talked to the guy. And then he said, my husband turned to me, he said, I told him you'll do it. And I was like, what? So he was like, Tracy, this is a memory for you. Do you know, like, it's not just gonna be you, it'd probably be like five other girls, it's
Yeah.
gonna be okay. And I said, okay, you're gonna come down to the floor with me and you're gonna, be with me. So we go down, they tell us where you're gonna stand when you get on it, and the guy talk to Prince when you get up there. Don't touch him. Like, I'm like, good grief. So I get up on the stage, and I'm like, he's singing and he walks right by me and I back up because I'm like, they said don't touch him. Like, I don't, I don't even want to. But the sad part about the whole thing is that I have no memory other, physically, because they wouldn't let us film or take pictures.
Oh
But
my
but
God.
I was just so nervous. I'm glad I did it though. Look at your face.
On YouTube. Well,
Yeah,
somebody got something.
I was like, in a way, I'm kind of glad because I could only imagine. I wasn't line dancing then, so I don't know what move I was doing. but yes.
The
So
greatest memory ever.
yes.
Okay, out of everybody that has been on here, authors that have been on here, you have the best story. Hands down. Hands down.
And I have my husband who could back it up too. So
Oh my God. You see this smile? You see
yeah,
this?
I
My
see
cheeks are
it. I
hurting.
see it.
My cheeks are hurting. Oh my God. He was like, walk right past.
He's so tiny. I was like, man, he's little. That's all I
Oh my
remember.
God. I heard that he was really small.
He is.
Oh my
Yes,
gosh.
very little. But yeah, so that's my Prince story. I said I have to tell her.
Love it. I love it. Wow. What an hour. What an
Yes,
hour we had.
yeah.
Listen, I want to thank you for coming on and sharing your story and sharing the book with us. Guys, if you can pick up the Unveiling, My Unveiling by Tracy Baker. Wonderful read. Tracy, tell us how we can follow you. What you have coming up?
So you can follow me on Facebook, Tracy Baker, author. You can email me, AuthorTracyBaker@gmail.com. And the next things I have coming up are really just some book signings and things like that. So, and as I mentioned earlier, I'm trying to work on getting some places to go and motivational speak. So yeah, hopefully there's good things coming up for me. I hope so.
Yeah. If you need a good motivational speaker, reach out to Tracy. I mean, I think she'd be a wonderful, wonderful speaker for those organizations or anyone out there looking for someone with that can tell a story and connect with an audience and give them hope. So yeah, reach out to her.
Thank you for that. And
Yeah,
thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate
absolutely.
all your support. She's very
Absolutely.
she's a sweetheart. Um, Helped me so much and given me this opportunity to be on your podcast. I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. The pleasure was all mine. It was just a wonderful, wonderful discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, with that said, guys, thank you for watching. And I will be back next time with another episode of the Purple Charm Experience. Peace.